Hello and welcome to another great tutorial of mine. I still remain myself, Akingbola Oluwafemi. Alright, this evening you will notice that my desktop background has changed. So that's to tell you that I'm bringing something really new to you this evening. I want to show you how to make this beautiful and colorful, festive uh, typography inside of Cinema 4D and Adobe Illustrator. So why not sit back and relax, put a cup of coffee beside you and watch and learn. All right, so let's jump into the tutorial. So the very first thing I did was to create an outline for my art inside of uh, Illustrator. And how did I do that? I did that simply by picking my brush tool and drawing a seamless stroke that forms the figure 2018. So I just did it simply like this, I think. So I went all the way down, down, and then this way, and then this way. So I'm doing something rough for you, and then this way, here, like this. So that is practically how I drew it. So you can do your own any way you want, but that's how it works for me. All right, so the next thing I did was to bring this guy out. So if you watch my last tutorial, I said that it only comes out as Illustrator. It only works in Cinema 4D as an Illustrator 8 file because that is the only file format Cinema 4D recognizes from Illustrator. So you export, so you save as, sorry, you save as Illustrator. I'll click OK, and then the next thing you do is Illustrator 8, and you click OK. So this is going to be more of a walkthrough. So since that is going to be more of a walkthrough for the purpose of this tutorial, I don't want to spend more time, so much time rather. So you would we're going to do some walkthrough. All right, so I've been exported that. We jump into Cinema 4D. Note, this is our final image. This is our final visual that will derive from this beautiful stroke, this single thing. All right, so let's jump into Cinema. So jumping into Cinema, we have it imported, and the only way we can have it imported is to come to File and do Open, and then the next thing you open is your documents. So it's here, 2018 pics, which is Illustrator 8 file, and then you click Open, and then it opens. Voila, you have it that way. All right, so the next thing to do, if you notice, it has spaces that you can see through, because judging by our image here, you would see that this guy here is over this guy, and this one comes behind, and this one comes behind this. You see these shadows, so it continues that way and comes behind and behind, and so it's like a long balloon that has been deformed. So what we have, how we'll do that is we pick each point of this spline and begin to move it forward and backward accordingly, so that when you drop your object to wrap around it, there won't be any polygon intersections that would rumple your work. So how do you do that? You make sure you select your point mode, and then you begin to click and drag forward and backward the point you want to make forward. So I want this one backward a little bit. So maybe I want this one down to come here. So just begin to drag it forward and backward and forward and backward. Maybe you want this one, so you drag it backward or forward, anyhow you want it. but just make sure that you get all your points not intersecting. So we have this space in between. All right, so the next thing to do is to make a spline wrap. So how do we do that? Remember, I've been on this spline wrap thing for some time, so it really amazes me. I really love it. It's really a beautiful tool. So we come to deformer and you pick spline wrap, and then you define the spline you want to wrap around, which is this 2018. So you click and drag underneath. So let me delete this guy. So you click and drag underneath here, and then the next thing to do is to pick your capsule, and then make sure the spline wrap is a child of the capsule. So once you make your spline wrap the child of the capsule, it wraps it around your 2018, but we are seeing something really gory and barbaric. So what we'll do is we have to change the parameters of this capsule here in the attributes manager. So let's change first the orientation. So if Y isn't working, definitely X should work. So do X, and then, oh, it looks like something that will work. So what do we do next? We reduce the radius. So we have radius reduced, and then the next thing to do, so that we have this beautiful seamless glossy thing, very smooth. So we have to increase the height segment. So the more you increase, the more it forms. So we have this, so increasing it, so we have so I can increase it to 1,000. Okay, so I think 1,000 is not okay because of this part here. So let me go back. So I think 1,000 is not fine because of this part. So you can still increase it and move to let's say 50,000. 50,000. That's like 500,000. So it's still not good. So what I did was, like I said, it's more of a walkthrough. So this is the final Cinema 4D file. So I moved it to oh, that's nice. 808 centimeter by radius 9 centimeter by height segment 936 centimeters. So let's do that. 936. Oh. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to change. Actually, not this, not the height. So the height can be 800. 800 is the height segment I'll change, which I can make it 1,000 now. And okay, so we are smoothing up. We have something that is getting smoothened up. We can still smoothen it up more. So after having that, you can increase your radius to have something big, bold. So I think I have my radius for the main file to be 9 centimeter, and then radius for this guy, I think, okay, 11 centimeter. Let's make it 10. So the next thing I did was I still had to deform this part and some other parts. I still had to change it in the point selection mode so that I would have my points staying where I want them to. So they have themselves staying here. So I have this one staying there. So we have it here. So I have all my points where I want them to be. So you can do yours anyhow you want it to be. So the next thing I did was to begin to add my camera and my light. Since it's a very simple scene, so I began to add my camera, which is my V-Ray bridge. So if you don't have V-Ray, you could download your V-Ray. And if you need tutorials on the standard Cinema 4D renderer, let me know. I would post a tutorial on that. But this is for V-Ray. All right, so what I did was first I set up my camera. So I have to come to V-Ray bridge, do camera, physical camera, I select it, and then I changed the, by selecting this tag, so I changed the film ISO, like I said in my last two tutorials, that your film ISO and your shutter speed are very important for your camera lighting and your proper image of your light of and proper lighting of your image. So the next thing I did was to put a front light, a front area light, which is this here, a dome light, which is here. So this is the dome light around. If you see it like here, in between here, so you see this guy has a dome light there, this one. And then the next thing I did was to Control Z. Okay. The next thing I did was to set up another front light too, which is on top. So I just copied and pasted this front light. So I just dropped it on top and changed the color. So to change the colors and attributes of the lights, make sure you come to V-Ray Bridge and choose lights and create V-Ray area rectangle light. Or you could create an area light and come to right click and come to tags, V-Ray Bridge, and add V-Ray light to it. So it's still the same process. So having done that, I picked my front and I changed the parameters of the tag. So I made sure it was area light and the intensity to 1. Note this intensity of 1 is the same thing as 100 intensity, because the tag is a V-Ray tag. So if you try to reduce it here, it won't reduce because the V-Ray tag has intensity of 1. So if I increase it, the more I increase it, the more the luminance here. So the intensity unit, sometimes when I want to render interiors, I use radiant power or luminance. But for the sake of this little guy, I just use default, so which is referencing back to this. So, all right, so the next thing I did was to the light color preset, leave it as custom. I changed it to white. I wanted the white light. And also area diffuse on, enable shadows on, and then my area light, I make sure it's invisible so my camera won't see it. If you make it visible, your camera would see it, as your V-Ray camera with this tag would see it, and it will disrupt your work. So the next thing I did was to copy this and paste it up here. So we have it here. And the only different thing about it is I just changed the color and the intensity. Because it's a blue light, so I had to change the intensity so it would shine directly from the top of my object. All right, so the next thing I did was to create a dome light in which I reduced intensity to 10. That's the environmental light, the light in the environment. And I don't think I applied any texture, did I? No, I didn't apply any texture. I just want it to be that way. So you would see that an intensity of 0.1 is the same thing as 10%. So you should be careful with the intensity if you're using V-Ray Bridge. All right, so the next thing I did was to create my beautiful material. So how did I do that? So I just came to create, V-Ray Bridge, V-Ray Advanced Material. Like I said, if you're going to be using V-Ray Render, make sure you use V-Ray Advanced Material. All right, so the next thing I did was to set the color. So I have specular 1 and 2. That's for reflectance. So for specular 1 has a white color, and the specular 2 has an orangey color. So the only difference is I just told it to fix dark edges here, and then this one not to fix dark edges. It doesn't really disturb your render. All right, so the next thing I did was to come to the diffuse layer, and then I added a gradient, the big gradient, and after adding the gradient, I go in and then begin to add my color. So if you're familiar with Illustrator, Photoshop, or any of these beautiful editing software or image creating software, you can do that easily. Just double click, and once so you double click, and once it comes out for you, select your color you want to use, and then the next thing I did was to just drag and drop onto my capsule. Note, onto the capsule, not onto the spline wrap. The spline wrap is just a deformer, and your 2018 is just a spline, so you can't see it. The only thing you can see is your capsule. All right, so the next thing I did was to set up my render setting here. So I made the V-Ray Bridge, So I went to show VFB window, and I said color mapping should be in Rayniard, multiplier of 1 and bond value of 0.35 with gamma of 2.2. My illumination, make sure your GI is on, and I use brute force light catch with my brute force of subdivision 8 and light catch of 3000 because I really want something really sharp. So my anti-aliasing, I make sure it's in adaptive subdivision. And then I think that's all about it. And then the next thing I did was to zoom into my camera. So if you're not using this, if you're not using the target option of the camera, like if you're not using the viewport of the camera, it would give you a wrong render, like okay, let me do a test render for you. So I'm actually rendering from outside. So we have a V-Ray interactive progressive render, and then you have something really annoying, something you won't like because you are not viewing it directly from your V-Ray camera. You are viewing it from Cinema 4D's default camera, and then it might piss you off. Oh, it's not even showing anything yet. Okay, not to waste our time. Okay, so we have that showing that just that blue light. So we only have the blue light is not, and the white light is not showing our dome light, neither is it showing our material color. So what do? We have to go back and zoom in into this. So the next thing I did was to come to V-Ray frame buffer and then render it out. So I just rendered it out by coming here and choosing just render to picture viewer. So it transfers it to the V-Ray frame buffer. To transfer to V-Ray frame buffer, you must make sure this show VFB window is checked on, is checked active. So it's going to render. So after the rendering, okay, so this is the rough of what I got. So it's still rendering, it's going to take a while before it renders. All right, so this is the final result of our render. Let me come here. So, okay, let me just file and place. So let me open it as 2018. So I named it 2018, which is here. So our final image comes out this way. So it's just blank and naked. So all I did was to pick my brush, that's my brush tool, and I started drawing the patterns I wanted around all this. So I picked my brush tool, and then I picked a color I wanted, and then I started drawing around. So let's pick a brush tool on this guy. Okay, brush, paintbrush. So I started drawing around. I think that layer is locked, so it's locked. That's why I have this guy locked here. So let's unlock it. I think so. Unlock is already unlocked. So now we can draw on. So I picked my color. Okay, so I picked the brush size, and then I began to draw. I began to draw whatever I wanted to draw. Make sure your brush size is the brush size you want. So let me change it to my other library. Sorry, excuse me. User defined and do simulated one. Okay, so I have. So pick any kind of brush you want, any kind of brush. So then you can keep drawing. So I started drawing around. I started drawing. So any the shapes I wanted, I began to draw around it. I began to use, if it's were dash lines, I began to draw around everything to have this carnival looking design. Also, I had to change colors for this by just simply coming here, double clicking, change colors to whatever I wanted, and then with my brush tool I just painted. So after painting, it gives me the color I want. Then I paint another color over it. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, so there it is. My system is just going really laggy this evening. All right, so I draw that, and then the next thing I do, or the next thing I did rather, is to pick a yellow and then draw it all over it. So I repeated the process for all these guys here. I repeated the process for here, repeated it for here and here, and then I began to draw other shapes therein. And then I typed 2018, drew a stroke, and I distributed it accordingly. So most people thought I did all this inside of Illustrator, but Cinema 4D just makes it easier for me, so I can actually work with my own 2D, my own 3D work, and bring it into Illustrator to work on it. So we still have something. So it's still rendering. So after the render, that was what I got. All right, so I think I've come to the end of this tutorial, and I'm glad you learned something from it, and you got to know how I made this beautiful 2018 background. I uploaded in my this beautiful 2018 background uploaded on my Instagram page. I'm sure you do like it. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and post your comments down below the video. And I'll come with new tutorials very soon to make sure you learn something new from me. I'm glad to share my knowledge with you guys. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye.